Well, in today's live lesson, we're going to be talking about three Christmas and holiday tunes that I think are awesome to play this time of the year, the ones that I really like to play, and talk a little bit about why, to me, actually, holiday music's really important to my journey with my ukulele and really doing this as a career because it's what kind of spurred me to create my own arrangements and yeah, we'll talk about it. So let's go ahead and dive in with the first song. The first one we're going to talk about is Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And the reason for this is, well, it's a brand new lesson coming here on Rock Class 101. It came out really nice. It sounds something like this to play some of it. A nice pretty melody, isn't it, right? Well, this is actually one of the first songs I ever arranged on the ukulele. And the reason is back when I was in college, I was studying music and I was playing my ukulele a lot, but I wasn't really connecting the dots a lot with these two things. It was sort of, I do my music homework, I bring my ukulele to class, my teachers were awesome, but I didn't really know what I was doing when I was playing the ukulele, if that makes sense. There's a disconnect. And one of the things that helped start connect things together for me was around this time of the year. I think it was my second year in college. My parents had a whole bunch of Christmas like fake books or piano books, basically, that had the melody of these with the chords listed. And one day I just kind of opened one, and they're not ukulele books, mind you, but all the melody notes tended to be really well positioned for the ukulele. And in this case, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, the notes were going something like this. All of this is nice and low on the ukulele, starting with this middle C going up to about this C here. And when I started to try to map some of it out, I was shocked in a really good way of like, oh, hey, these melody notes are here on the ukulele. Now, learning to read music, a lot of resources here at Rock Class 101. But what I really loved to do was to start to put chords behind it, start to realize, oh, hey, if I have these melody notes shown, maybe I'll be able to reinforce them with some chords too. And this is actually something I did a whole course on that's available over at my Patreon page. There's a link down below. But what's really this is trying to layer in melody and chords together. And Christmas music kind of facilitated that for me. It kind of taught me what to do because I started realizing, hey, if I play these notes and I want to get a melody note with a chord, I can start to do this. And because Christmas music is so familiar to everybody that's listening to it, it makes it a lot easier to arrange. And so whatever your relationship with Christmas music may or may not be, right? Everybody knows it really well just because, well, we hear it all the time throughout our lives. And that makes for an incredible resource to create arrangements because there's a familiarity to the content. And so when I was opening these songs, of course I know how Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas should sound. So as I'm working on the arrangement, it's really easy to know if I'm on the right track or not because, well, does it sound like the song? If the answer is yes, and it sounds good, then I'm doing it right. And that's really the golden rule of creating arrangements on an ukulele is if it sounds good and you like it, then it's correct. That's all that really matters because the only reason we do this is for fun and fulfillment. And if your arrangement is fun and fulfilling, fantastic. You're doing it really well. And so for me, Christmas music really kickstarted this whole thing. It kickstarted me creating my own arrangements, which you see me do here on Rock Class 101 lessons all the time. I also do a lot of them on my YouTube channel with that Patreon page. And it was really cool to make a course on teaching this style. And I even did a couple of Zoom workshop things that were Christmas themed to show this because Christmas music just kind of works to learn how to arrange. And so with my private students, Christmas music's kind of what we start with. And so if you've been looking to do an arrangement for a long time, find a Christmas song you like and try to work through it. Now, a couple little tips with it. One is you want to make sure that it's in the tuning of the instrument, meaning the first note can't be lower than the instrument can play, and it also probably shouldn't be super high if we're going to go up higher from that. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is awesome because it starts here on middle C, which means it's all right there for us and makes it easier to start to work through. So that's the first one. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. One of my favorites to play, and it's really because it was one of the first that I learned how to play, and it kind of kick-started arranging for me, made for a really, really fun time. So the second song I'm going to talk about is Deck the Halls. And this one's a little different, but this is also an early arrangement I did. I'll talk a bit more about the idea behind it after I play some of it. It sounds something like this, bringing the camera down. So if you've heard Deck the Halls before, you might think, that's kind of Deck the Halls, but not really Deck the Halls, right? And that's kind of the point. One of the reasons I love playing this tune and other holiday tunes is because of that familiarity that I mentioned a moment ago. You can really mess with them. You can really play with expectations and play off of these themes in ways where it almost starts to breed a creativity of almost writing your own music. For me, when I was working on Deck the Halls and starting to work on some of the chord melody concepts, I quickly came up with an arrangement that was sort of like... And that was fine, but it's kind of boring, right? And this song, I mean, truthfully, I don't think Deck the Halls is the most interesting song in the world. It's kind of simple. So what I started doing is I started just kind of experimenting. And at the time, I was really into finger picking. I was really into hammer-ons and pull-offs. I'm still into both of these things. But I was essentially playing with this little F add 9, this almost F sus2, right? All open with the first fret on the E string and add this third fret on the A. It's one of my favorite sounds, kind of going between those. And what I was doing is I was just playing with my high G ukulele an in-to-out pattern. So C, E, G, A. And then when I play the A, I do a hammer on and pull off to the open. So hammer on to the 3 on the A, and then pull off to the open. Then I play the G again, and then the E and the C. So, and then play the E one more time to finish it. I love this sound. And I felt like this was a cool little bass line. And not bass line as in a bass, slap at a bass, but more bass line as in just a starting point to kind of create this nice texture and background that I can kind of play off of, right? If I'm going, this is nice. And it has that sound of Deck the Halls. So I added a couple other chords in there. Playing this B flat because it's played a lot in Deck the Halls. Playing the open for that C chord because again that's played. And from there I started to take the melody of Deck the Halls and try to finger pick it and weave it in with some of this stuff that's going on. So bringing the camera down again, I was just kind of messing around. See, I'm kind of breaking up the melody by using that. And that's really what makes this such a fun little exercise. And then eventually I got bored because I was just playing that melody over and over. I wanted something more. So I went for this sort of minor sound. Now, this is funny because at the end of the day, the golden rule of arranging and playing music is if it sounds good, you're doing it right. Like really, that's the only reason music theory exists, is to explain what sounds good to people so that they can communicate it to others so that it can be recreated. If you like something, awesome. For me, what I was doing is I was playing this a lot, and I thought, oh, what if I just like play the first fret on the C string? Well, that's kind of cool and minor jazzy stuff, right? And if I do that, I could play that same melody. That A doesn't work. Ooh, that A flat sounds good with the G. Okay. So I kind of played the melody now instead of it going. Now I'm playing it like with this really cool spicy chord here, barring on the first fret. Technically speaking, this is a G minor 7 flat 5, but honestly, the name doesn't matter. It just sounds cool. And I would go back. I was like, hey, I like that sound. So now I have like this little minor version of Deck the Halls, right? And I just was experimenting around, just trying things. For all these good sounds, there were lots of bad sounds that came out, but the familiarity of the Christmas holiday music gave me kind of like the freedom of I know if it's going to sound good or not, or know if it's right or the song. In this case, playing with that expectation is what I liked. Everybody knows Deck the Halls. Does everyone know Deck the Halls like that? Not really, and that's what made it cool and interesting. Now this arrangement, you can actually find a link down below if you're watching this as a recording. And I also did a little holiday album. So it was released in 2018, but I recorded it in like 2011 or earlier, 2010. I think it was 2010. When I was in college and learning how to arrange, I was also learning how to record. I was in an audio engineering program at Edmonds College, and I got my first like home studio. I got an iMac with some really nice microphones, and it was one of the best Christmases ever because I just sat there and just practiced recording my ukulele. And those recordings were actually kind of remastered and we were released in 2018. And that Deck the Halls arrangement is on there. And that Deck the Halls arrangement is really the reason why I made that little album, is because I just thought it sounded so cool. It was so much fun to play. I still play it to this day. And if you'd like to play it, check out the link down below once this is posted as a recording. But that's song number 2, which is Deck the Halls. Now, song number 3 is, we're going to fast forward a little bit in my journey. So those first 2 were very much early on in my journey arranging, 2 of the first arrangements I really ever did. This one we're going to talk about, I just started working on more in the last year, and I think I worked on it before that, but last year I really was working on it, and that is Carol of the Bells. I love this melody, almost like year-round. I love this melody. But what I love about this with the ukulele is I'm a primarily high G player. And the reason for that, if you've watched some of these live streams before or things, is I love the campanella style, which is playing melody notes off of multiple strings. And Carol of the Bells is perfect for this, like scary perfect. It's so cool. And so I'm going to play a little bit of it for you. See how this goes. I should have practiced it a little bit more before our live stream, but it sounds something like this. One of the, I think, most beautiful melodies ever. And with that, you saw I did some strumming and just do some chord work, just because it's kind of fun to play off of. It's just an infectious melody with a lot going on. And in this case, I'm using my high G string to bring it all forward. This is what I love about this tune and playing this tune on the ukulele, is the melody's very simple to this song. It's just going to be B flat, A, B flat, and G. That's all it is. B flat, A, B flat, G. So you can play it at home by just playing the first fret on the A string, open on the A string, 1 on the A string, and then 3 on the E. Or if you have a high G, you could play 1 on the A, 0 on the A, 1 on the A, 0 on the G. That's a really easy way to play it. If you do it that way, you're starting to get a little bit of the campanella effect because that G string keeps ringing as the A string is played. Hear that continued resonance? Well, we're going to take it to an even higher level. We're going to play our A note on the A string. We're going to play our B flat note on the G string. And we're going to play the G note on the E string. So the B flat note's here on 3 of the G. The 3 on the E is going to be the G. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play B flat, which is my G string, A string, B flat again, which is the G string, and then 3 on the E for the G note. Hear that resonance? So cool, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 2nd fret on the G string here. And this makes it a G minor chord, so I can pluck that if I want to get that a little bit extra resonance. This is already so cool. But this song has some other layers to it, one of which is a descending bass line. As this melody is played, as this melody is played, there's this line that goes, and what that is a bass line. It's going G, F, E flat, D, E flat, D, C, back to D. Now if you're playing a duet, one of you can go, while the other one goes with this part here. But if you're playing by yourself, you might want to do both at the same time. And this is why I worked out this arrangement and what makes it kind of challenging. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the camera down, is I'm going to play my first melody. But when I play the first melody note each time, each bar, I'm going to play a note to go in the bass with it. First one I'm going to play is that G. And instead of stretching all the way up here, I'm just going to play that G note 3 on the E. So I'm going to play that along with the B flat at the same time. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. The next note should be an F. So if I go down here, now I'm taking the E string off. We don't want that, right? Because the E, G, and A are all playing these melody notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch my pinky over here to get 5 on the C string for an F note. And then I'm going to go to the E flat, which means I got a partial bar here. This is really hard to play, but pretty cool. And then I go to the D note, and then it goes back up to the E flat, back down to the D, to a C, open it up, and then back to the D. Really crazy difficult. This actually took me like all Christmas season last year to get comfortable playing. But when you do it right, you'll hear that this bass line will be represented while the melody of, and it sounds like this. I messed up. See, it's so easy to do, especially when you're looking at the camera like I am. Let me try that again, see if I can get a little better. And the faster you do it, the cooler it sounds. Sweet, right? And then with some of the other parts, I can play these chords and I can kind of move that bass line down in different ways, and that can just sound so cool and such a unique, sound. And then don't forget about this part here. all of this I'm putting over multiple strings to create that dramatic effect. And it is truly a blast to play when you get that whole puzzle worked out. And so the reason I love that tune, it's all about campanella. That's a truly high G arrangement that wouldn't work with a low G. But what's cool is if you're primarily a low G player, you can figure out a low G arrangement that takes advantage of its tuning. And again, the familiarity of holiday Christmas music makes it a lot easier to arrange because you can really easily hear when it sounds right versus wrong. And remember, if it sounds right and you think it sounds good, then you're doing it right, because that's really the only rule, is that there are no real rules. It just matters that you're enjoying what you're playing and you like how it sounds. Everything else doesn't really matter too much. So those are my 3 songs. The first one was Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, because it's one of the first songs I ever arranged on the ukulele because of the familiarity of Christmas music and because it's a brand new lesson here on Rock Class 101. The second song was Deck the Halls, which is available over at my on my album. It's called A Few Merry Melodies. It's a little Christmas album I released 5 years ago or so, but the recordings are way older than that. I think it was recorded in 2010 when I first started doing arrangements. And the reason Deck the Halls made the list is because I tried to make it a little different. I tried to play with expectations and use some cool ukulele techniques, making it still fun to play to this day. And then the third one is Deck the Halls, excuse me, I just said that. The third one is Carol of the Bells. And the reason is because I love using the campanella style playing to create this rich, unique sound for a really good challenge and just a lot of fun to play. All 3 of these were arrangements that I did, and the way I did these arrangements can all be explained in my chord melody course that's available over at my Patreon page, and as well as all the resources here on Rock Class 101, watching the different tutorials that we do. You should be able to play your own arrangements and create your own arrangements just like I do using these different resources. So don't be afraid. Christmas music's a great place to dive in and see what you can think up. But now let's go ahead and see if there are any questions at all. I'm going to take a look at the chat and the forum. If you're watching this as a recording, every time we do one of these live streams, there's a forum post over at Rock Class 101, and I make sure I read all those comments here on the live stream. If you're watching this live, feel free to leave your comment in the chat, and I'll make sure that I get to it here. So the first comment is from the Bumble Bard. No, it seems early for Christmas music, but it really isn't at all. Yeah, it was kind of funny. I was like, oh my gosh, it's November 14th. My top 3 favorites are Santa Baby, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and 85% of Christmas songs they play in grocery stores. Oh wait, those are actually songs that instantly fill me with rage when I hear them. Got my list mixed up. My real list is Silent Night, Oh Holy Night, Carol of the Bells. I guess I'm kind of a Scrooge when it comes to Christmas music. Sorry for that. Oh well. No, Christmas music's a weird thing. People have different relationships with it. Don't feel bad for whatever your relationship is with Christmas music. I have some songs I love, and I also have many that fill me with rage, much like my son knows by putting Mariah Carey on repeat using Alexa just to drive me absolutely bonkers, but that's okay. I would have done the same when I was his age. Silent Night, Oh Holy Night, Carol of the Bells, great picks. As we just established, Carol of the Bells is one of my favorite play. I will say, though, I love Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, because I played that song on repeat to upset my mom. Oh, that's interesting. That does come full circle with my son now, doesn't it? 11397 says, pretty funny. I enjoy some of the more modern songs, but I'll stick with a few traditional hymns. Wassail? I don't know how to pronounce that. Wassail. Wassail song? Oh Holy Night, O Little Town of Bethlehem, Come All Ye Faithful, Away in a Manger, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, What Child Is This? Angels We Have Heard on High. I know it's more than 3, wouldn't mind a few children tunes to play with them. Good discussion. Yeah, I love a lot of these tunes. Some of my favorites are also going to be the ones that are done by the Vince Guaraldi Trio. They do a lot of covers of hymns for the Charlie Brown Christmas. That album I listen to almost on repeat all of the holidays, and so O Tannenbaum is obviously the same as, yeah, it's beautiful stuff. And then the Bumblebard also says, that's a really good list. Angels We Have Heard on High would sound lovely on Uke. I think Rock Class 101 did an arrangement of that, maybe? Maybe, we'll have to check. I do also like a few modern Christmas songs like Jingle Bell Rock. Ooh, that's one of my favorites. That almost made the list. It has that sort of super fun to play. One of the first arrangements I did, it's also on that little album thing. Forgot how to play it there for a second, but but I think I just associate a lot of those with annoying Christmas ads and things. Some are fun though, yeah, for sure. A very alternative Christmas song would be March of the Toreadors, because nothing says Christmas like bullfighting and homicidal Chuck E. Cheese monsters. Deep cut there for sure. March of the Toreadors is a song on the new Five Nights at Freddy's video. I did just do an arrangement of that song on my YouTube channel, so I think that's what she's referencing. But good fun with that. Let me see if there are any other questions in the chat here. And the forum posts. And then again, if you are in the chat, feel free to leave a comment. Yep, Ron says, I like all kinds of music, but can only take heavy metal for a few minutes. Excellent. And John Denver's Christmas album is my favorite. Yeah, it's I was on repeat for sure. My mom is a huge John Denver fan. She's also just a huge Christmas music fan. So there are a lot of Christmas albums, especially ones that were released in like the late 80s, early 90s, that just instantly make me feel like a child, because the only time I would ever hear them is Christmas at my parents' house as a child. It's pretty wild how music can have that effect. So if any of those Carpenter albums or anything else comes on, it'll immediately kick that for me, which is kind of cool. And so when you're arranging Christmas music, that's one of the reasons why I like doing it so much, is it can tap into things that you have a familiarity with, that's not as long as you've been playing ukulele, but maybe as long as you've been listening to music. And that can help make the arranging process easier because you know what it sounds like. But kind of cool. Let's see if there are any other comments here. Mary Jane says hi in the chat. Hey, Mary, thanks so much for coming. Let me make sure there aren't any other questions here. 1 second. Let's see. Looks like there isn't there. Looks like we're good there. Let me just make sure that nothing's there we go. Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for coming to the live stream. Again, if you're watching this as a recording, we do a live lesson every second Tuesday of the month at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern time. I know it's a weird time slot, but it's when my son is out of school and I'm able to, or in school, excuse me, and I'm able to do these. So if you ever want to catch one live, feel free to come when you see it. But if you want to leave your comments in the discussion before or after, I'll always make sure I answer them. So be sure and check all that out. Thank you so much for attending today. I hope you all have a wonderful, safe holiday season. And I look forward to seeing you next time in December. We'll be in the thick of the holiday season on the next live lesson. But take it easy. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.